And so this bill finally provides that effective oversight and governance of those extraordinary authorities. And I know with great confidence that those men and women, the extraordinary men and women dedicated to keeping us safe and upholding our laws, will welcome this level of oversight being provided under this bill.
Statements by members, déclaration des députés. The honourable member for Nunavut.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today is the 4th annual Orange Shirt Day. Every Child Matters. This nationally recognized movement commemorates the thousands of Indigenous children across Canada who were taken from their homes and sent to a residential school. The legacy of this day stems from the experience of a 6-year-old girl named Phyllis Webstad, who had her shiny new orange shirt taken from her upon arriving at a residential school. The orange shirt represents the loss of culture, identity, and language for thousands of Indigenous children, the effects of which are still felt to this day. The Minister of Indigenous and Northern Affairs is mandated to work with Indigenous communities to gain back the culture and identity that was lost. Although efforts such as the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada have made strides to making amends with Canada's Indigenous population, continued efforts are needed to heal the wounds inflicted by residential schools. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Whitby.
Madam President, on September 10th, residents in my riding of Whitby participated in the annual Brooklyn Harvest Festival. This family-friendly day marks the start of the harvest season and an opportunity to celebrate our local farmers and thank them for all that they do for our community.
This year's event was very successful. The new location was filled with many people, and it was very popular. Participants could sample things, purchase flowers, and see other agricultural products from the region, as well as taking advantage of local entertainment.
Residents of Whitby, I extend my deepest appreciation to everyone who contributed to making this year's festival the best yet. Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
For Sarnia Lambton.
Madam Speaker, scientific research is alive and well, not just across Canada, but it's thriving in my riding as well. Yesterday, it was announced that the Western Research Park, which includes the Western Sarnia-Lambton Research Park, received the 2016 Outstanding Research Park Award from the Association of University Research Parks. This international recognition makes Western the first research park in Ontario to receive this award and the third in Canada. The award recognizes the effective operation and the quantifiable contribution the research park makes to its community. I want to thank the park team and their board of directors. Congratulations to Tom Streifler, Catherine Albion, Ang U, and Carolyn Craig. I recognize your excellence, Sarnia Lambton recognizes your excellence, and now the world recognizes your excellence.
The honourable member for Brampton Centre.
Madam Speaker, today, tomorrow, October 1st, marks the International Day for Seniors. It reminds us to appreciate and sacrifices and the contribution made by the seniors toward the progress of our country. I have personal experience with my 96-year-old father, Sardar Purushottam Singh Sangha. I'm certain same applies to all of us. Summer events were the great opportunities to meet and listen to seniors. During Canada 50 Games held in my riding, I had the honor to present medals to the senior champions aged 50 to 90. What a great inspiration for me. I will cherish it forever. Our seniors are reaching out to us. Let's respond because we owe it to them. Action thy duty, reward not thy concern, as in Bhagavad Gita. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Esquimalt, Saanich Soup.
Madam Speaker, on Monday I introduced my bill to repeal Bill C-51. New Democrats are still saying today what we said from the beginning. Bill C-51 infringes on our civil liberties without doing anything to make us safer. The Minister of Public Safety now calls Bill C-22 the centerpiece of Liberal national security policy. During the campaign, of course, the Liberal centerpiece was fixing Bill C-51. What we have in Bill C-22 is a necessary but flawed review committee. a case of bait and switch followed by more consultation. Yet more consultation is cold comfort to Canadians whose rights are under threat, including those engaged in legitimate dissent like First Nations leaders and environmentalists, or even ordinary citizens who value their privacy. Madam Speaker, we all know what works when it comes to combating terrorism. We need to devote adequate resources to de-radicalization and to traditional intelligence and enforcement work. Neither restricting our rights nor collecting so much information on all of us that we lose focus on the real threats will help keep us safe. That's why it's time to
The honourable member for York South-Weston.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to speak about the Canada Summer Jobs Program and the impact that it's had in my riding of York South-Weston. This program is meant to fund organizations to create jobs for young people. Due to the rise in violence in certain parts of Toronto, York South-Weston received extra funding this year from the Canada Summer Jobs Program. This funding was generously matched by Alan and Dawn Carswell and the Carswell Family Foundation. Young people in my riding have come to me and have told me the positive impact that this extra funding has had on their lives. They've told me how they've been able to assist organizations like the Boys and Girls Club of Western Mount Dennis and Frontlines Toronto to deliver even more vital services to my constituents. I'm very proud to be part of a government that invests in young people, that believes in investing in young people, and I'm happy to thank the organizations that participated and Carswell Foundation for ensuring that young people will have meaningful work experience as they start their careers. Thank you.
Member for Souris Moose Mountain.
Madam Speaker, on August 5th, while millions of Canadians and others around the world watched the opening ceremonies of the Rio Summer Olympic Games, the town of Carlisle, Saskatchewan, and the people of Souris Moose Mountain were focused on 12-year-old Carter Morrison. Carter was born with achondroplasia, an inherited growth disorder, and he was chosen to lead Team Canada into Americana Stadium alongside flag bearer Rosie McLennan. Carter also was fortunate to lead Team Mongolia through the stadium. He carried with him a tree which was later planted following the opening ceremonies. This was the first time ever that children, the Olympic kids, could walk in the opening ceremonies of the Olympics. Ronald McDonald House brought nearly 100 people from around the world to Brazil and have been bringing children to the Olympics since 1986. Carter has stayed at Ronald McDonald Houses in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Alberta since he was a baby. Thank you, Ronald McDonald House, and great job, Carter. You were a fantastic ambassador for Canada.
The honourable member for Labrador. The honourable member for Labrador.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to acknowledge the steadfast determination of one Indigenous Labradorian. Guy Poole began walking to raise money and awareness for diabetes after his wife passed away due to complications related to the disease. Now 72 years young, committed and energized, Guy has walked over 3,000 kilometers in Newfoundland and Labrador and has raised over $100,000. He most recently finished a walk from Gander to St. John's, Newfoundland. Diabetes is a disease that disproportionately affects First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people, up to four times higher in Indigenous communities versus non-Indigenous. That rate is on the rise in both Indigenous and non-Indigenous populations within Canada. I sincerely thank Guy Poole, congratulate him, and acknowledge him and the many others that have worked so hard to raise the awareness and to raise money for prevention, treatment, and a cure for diabetes.
The honourable member for Aurora Oak Ridges.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm pleased to inform members that October 2nd marks the 175th anniversary of the Canada Gazette, the Government of Canada's official newspaper. Since 1841, the Gazette has documented proclamations of war and peace, notices of royal assent, regulations, and judicial appointments. La Gazette du Canada.
The Canada Gazette is much more than a means for the government to keep Canadians informed. It's also an important channel of communication for Canadians to speak to their government. The government's draft regulations are clearly posted on the Canada Gazette website, and all Canadians are invited to provide their input.
To the Department of Public Services and Procurement in his role as the Queen's printer, and thank you to the Canada Gazette employees whose efforts contribute to our country's democracy. Thank you.
The honourable member for Airdrie.
Madam Speaker, every year about 1,000 Canadian babies fall asleep and never wake up. They die from sudden infant death syndrome. SIDS is the #1 cause of death in babies under the age of 1. Quinn Isla Cormier of Airdrie was one of those babies. She was loved, and she is still missed. And her death, like all SIDS or undetermined deaths, couldn't have been predicted or prevented. I rise to acknowledge Quinn's mother, Sarah Cormier, and her family for creating an organization dedicated to helping families who've lost an infant suddenly and unexpectedly. Ms. Cormier and Quinn's Legacy Run Society are building awareness through fundraising initiatives and advocacy. And in partnership with SIDS Calgary, the funds raised go to parents who've lost an infant to SIDS and face financial hardship due to the loss of government benefits. Tomorrow marks the beginning of Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, an important reminder of the babies lost and the families that survived them, to help raise awareness and to reflect on whether our current policies are adequately supporting SIDS families.
Honourable member for Laurentides-Labelle.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to pay tribute to an institution inside the Liberal Party of Canada, the aptly named Paul Quirk. As a fresh Liberal volunteer in Ottawa, my first stop on the tour of the party office was the print shop, with Paul at the helm. Never arriving later than sunrise, never shying away from a challenge, the 72-year-old keeps the machinery greased and the wheels turning, rain or shine. He has solved problems, he has given guidance, he has worked miracles. I have learned tricks from him to efficiently stuff envelopes that everyone here would appreciate, and some of you I might tell. Now, at the end of 19 years, 7 national elections, and more than 50 by-elections, with some 119 million pieces produced, Paul is ready to take his next step. We will hold the presses until we hear what his new career will be. Paul, it has been an immense pleasure to work with you and to learn from you. All the very best in your retirement. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Winnipeg South.
Madam Speaker, I am pleased to rise in the House to let you know that tomorrow, October 1st, is National Seniors' Day. We believe that Canada is at its best when all citizens are treated fairly and have the opportunity to reach their full potential, including seniors. Through Budget 2016, we are making historic investments that will change the lives of seniors both now and in the future by addressing income security, social inclusion, poverty, affordable housing, as well as more generous and flexible leave for caregivers. Let us take the opportunity on National Seniors' Day to celebrate and pay tribute to all seniors for the valuable contributions they have made and continue to make to our families, workplaces, communities, and to Canada. And I would particularly like to take this opportunity to recognize a great organization in my riding of Winnipeg South, Pembina Active Living 55+, which provides valuable programs and community services to older adults. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Kamloops Thompson Caribou.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And today I rise to recognize Orange Shirt Day. And this was launched in the province of British Columbia and was created to educate students and communities of the history and legacy of Canada's residential schools. Madam Speaker, most of us in this chamber remember our first days of school very fondly, our new clothes, our shiny shoes, and we go off with pride. The experience for Phyllis Webster, who was 6 years old when she began attending St. Joseph's Mission School in Williams Lake, was nothing like many experience. On her first day, her new orange shirt, a gift from her grandmother, was taken away from her. This profoundly affected her for many, many years. So today, what we need to do is continue on the important work. We started with an apology in this chamber and continue to recognize the legacy of the residential school. So I hope all members in this chamber will stand and recognize Orange Shirt Day in Canada.
The honourable member for Ajax.
Madam Speaker, for a generation, Canada led the world in tobacco control. Successive Liberal and Conservative governments worked with not-for-profit organizations like Heart and Stroke, Canadian Cancer Society, and the Lung Association to drive down youth prevalence rates and see smoking reduced to some of the lowest levels in the world. And then for a decade, that leadership was lost, and Canada watched as the rest of the world passed this by in tobacco control. We watched as stagnant rates in Canada on smoking continued. And that means that about 37,000 Canadians die every single year in the leading cause of preventable death. To give you an idea of scope, Madam Speaker, that's the equivalent of an entire riding disappearing every 3 years. We have an opportunity to reestablish leadership in areas like plain packaging, where we've seen Australia and the United Kingdom and others take action. We made a commitment there to act, and we know that that will work. It's time for us to lead again.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi Bay James Nunavik.
Speaker, I rise today to recognize Orange Shirt Day because every child matters. I would like to read a letter from an Oji Cree teenager who wrote to me. She wrote, "Dear House of Commons, residential schools have played a huge role in the history of Canada. This needs to be told to every Canadian to bring awareness and honor the survivors of residential schools and their families. September 30th is known as Orange Shirt Day because on this day, an Indigenous woman, Phyllis Webstad, was stripped of her orange shirt on the first day of school. This action symbolizes the way many Indigenous children were stripped of their identity and culture in residential schools. When you destroy a culture, a language, tradition, you demolish the foundation of a human being. Many Indigenous people are still suffering in silence. That is the goal of Orange Shirt Day, Madam Speaker, to bring comfort and closure to the survivors of residential school, to remind them that we support them on their journey to healing. I hope you all take the time to stand with us and bring hope for a better future."
The Honourable Member for Battleford, Lloydminster.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Canada's been a trading nation since before Confederation. Codfish and beaver pelts were traded as a form of currency and paved the way to the development of this great country. Today, we still trade in commodities, but also world-class ideas and services. Free, fair, and open trade corridors are the pathways to economic sustainability. In our cross-Canada hearings over the past month, it's clear that the vast majority of Canadians are open to and ready to take these bold next steps with CETA and TPP. However, there will always be the naysayers who will see the sky as falling. We should never discount their concerns, but rather make sure they are apprised of the real facts, not the myths and misinformation some are peddling. It's well documented that trade drives innovation and efficiency. The Canadian economic future is bright with our resources and Canadian resourcefulness. We are a nation with huge potential. We must embrace these opportunities, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Mount Royal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On Sunday evening, Jews in Canada will begin celebrating Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. As such, it is a good time for us to recognize the enormous contributions Canadian Jews have made to our society. Since 1760, the Jewish community has left its mark. In politics, Ezekiel Hart was the first Jew elected to the legislature of Lower Canada in 1807. In 1872, Henry Nathans of Victoria was the first Jew elected to the House of Commons. Since then, they were followed by such luminaries as Herb Gray, David Lewis, Dave Barrett, Joe Oliver, and Erwin Kotler. From Supreme Court justices like Bora Laskin and Rosie Abella, to athletes like Bobby Rosenfeld and Mike Camilleri, to writers like Mordecai Richler and Adele Wiseman, to actors like Seth Rogen and William Shatner, to musicians like Leonard Cohen, Geddy Lee, and Drake. Jewish Canadians continue to make Canada proud. I wish all who celebrate Rosh Hashanah a healthy, peaceful, and sweet New Year. L'Shana Tova.
Oral questions, questions orales. The Honourable Leader, the Honourable House Leader, Official Opposition House Leader.
Madam Speaker, yesterday the Parliamentary Budget Officer confirmed our worst fears. Compared to under the Conservative watch, the Liberals have increased spending by more than $3 billion, and that was just in the first 3 months of this year. Yet there's nothing to show for this reckless spending. Jobs are being lost across the country. When will the Liberals stop their out-of-control spending and start respecting hard-working taxpayers?
Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank the honourable member for a question. Madam Speaker, this is the government that's decided to invest in Canadian and the Canadian economy. And what we're doing, Madam Speaker, has been applauded around the world. Let me quote the managing director of the IMF, Madame Christine Lagarde, which was saying recently, really very much hopes that the Canadian economic policies can actually go viral. Madam Speaker, what we're doing is right for Canadian and is applauded around the world and will continue to do that.
Honourable Official Opposition House Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, Madam Speaker, the ordinary Canadian is struggling. The economy has lost over 60,000 jobs just over the summer, and investment is leaving Canada. Household debt is at record levels, yet the Liberal government continues to spend recklessly and increase taxes. Expert after expert confirms that the Liberal spending spree isn't working and isn't helping the economy. When will the Liberals do the right thing, cancel their tax hikes on Canadian families, and control their reckless spending?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Speaker, I'd like to thank the honourable member for the question. Madam Speaker, actually growth is up in July. I mean, just let's be clear on the facts. But more importantly, Madam Speaker, is that this government has done as its first priority to reduce tax for Canadians, because that's what Canadian families wanted. And after that, we went on to introduce the Canada Child Benefit, Madam Speaker, which is helping 9 families out of 10. Then we went on to enhance the CPP, the Canadian Pension Plan in Canada, Madam Speaker. Then we went on to make historical investment in infrastructure and innovation. Madam Speaker, that's the way to grow an economy, and we'll continue to do just that.
The Honourable House Leader of the Official Opposition.
Madam Speaker, Canadian businesses are losing confidence in this Liberal government. Absolutely. Less than 48 hours after the Pacific Northwest project was approved, Petronas is rumoured to be selling their stake. Why? Because the cost and uncertainty of doing business in Canada is too high. When will the Liberals stop raising taxes, stop choking businesses with needless red tape and delays?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
To thank my honourable colleague for the question. Let me state the record very clear. The very first thing that this government, Madam Speaker, did was to reduce taxes for 9 million Canadians. That's the first thing we did, Madam Speaker, and we're very proud of it. And you know what? What we're doing, Madam Speaker, is applauded around the world by the IMF Managing Director, by the Governor of Bank of Canada, by the PBO. Madam Speaker, what we're doing is the right thing for Canadians, and we will continue to do just that.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Madam Speaker, interfering in provincial jurisdiction is part of the Liberal culture. This centralizing government wants to impose conditions on health care and health transfers for the well-being of Canadians. Madam Speaker, respect for provincial jurisdiction, does that mean something to the Minister of Health? The Honourable Minister of Health. Madam Speaker, Canadians are proud of their public health care system. I hear their concerns, and I want to say that the Canada Health Transfer will increase by over $1 billion next year to reach over $37 billion. I am already in discussions with my counterpart from Quebec and with the other provincial and territorial health ministers. We are continuing our discussions on the way to create a healthcare system that meets the needs of Canadians. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Madam Speaker, the provinces are the best placed to decide what they need in terms of health care. And on this side of the House, we understand that very well. Madam Speaker, today I'm asking the Minister of Health to remove all conditions for the transfer of for health transfers, and let's have the minister deal with her own affairs and let provinces maintain their own jurisdiction. The Honourable Minister of Health.
That the members opposite, who while they were in power for almost a decade did nothing to advance health care in this country, are now dictating how it should be done. Our government works with a spirit of collaboration with our partners. All levels of government have a role to play in health care. It requires us to work in collaboration with patients, with health care providers, all of us working together for the betterment of the health of Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Abitibi, Bay James Nunavik, EU.
Madam Speaker. Today marks the Orange Shirt Day, a day to honor residential school survivors, Madam Speaker. So let's recognize survivors who are left out of the residential school agreement. For example, the day scholars have a certified class action, and time is of the essence, Madam Speaker, because plaintiffs are passing away. But this government has refused to settle with them in good faith. In honor of Orange Shirt Day, can the Justice Minister finally commit to true reconciliation and stop fighting survivors in court?
Hear, hear. The Honour of Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Indigenous Affairs and Northern Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my colleague for his question. The government is committed to ensuring justice for all victims of this dark chapter in our history, and that all those entitled to compensation will receive it. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to pursue the vital work of advancing reconciliation with Indigenous people and bringing closure to the tragic legacy of abuse of Indigenous children. We uphold the Indian residential school settlement process, and we will protect the integrity of that independent assessment process. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Abitibi Bay James, Nunavik EU. Madam Speaker, there won't be reconciliation in the absence of justice in this country. We need to stop forcing survivors of Indian residential schools to fight before the courts to get their fair compensation. The Justice Minister must eliminate the cases that are piling up against Indian residential school survivors in her department. On this day in honor of residential school survivors, can the Minister commit to doing just that?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Indigenous and Northern Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and again I thank my colleague for his question. I don't think that there is any doubt of our government's commitment to all the victims that have suffered through this dark saga of residential schools in Canada. Just yesterday, we talked about the settlement out of court of the Anderson case in Newfoundland and Labrador. We are very proud, Mr. Speaker, that our government is moving forward with the truth and reconciliation process. We will continue to work hard to reconcile with Indigenous people and with survivors. Litigation is not our choice or course of action we prefer.
The Honourable Member for Belley-Chambly. Madam Speaker, still on the subject of human rights, yesterday Saudi Arabia refused to recognize its past violations. It also affirmed that arms sales is an act of friendship. Most Canadians, I think we can agree, are in agreement that we don't need to show friendship towards a country which violates human rights. Will the government support the NDP motion to increase oversight of arms sales? If not, why not? Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. We're delivering on our campaign commitment by acceding to the Arms Trade Treaty in line with our G7 and G20 allies, thus promoting responsibility, transparency and accountability in regulating the global trade of arms. This is the right thing to do, it's what we've committed to doing, and we're delivering on our promise. Right now, we're consulting with NGOs and industry before introducing legislation, at which time all members of the House and in committee will have the opportunity to scrutinize and review. I'm
looking forward to working forward with my colleagues on this issue. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Belley-Chambly. Madam Speaker, still no convincing argument for why to not support that.
Foreign Affairs quietly approved export permits for Saudi Arabia while claiming his hands were tied. Later, we learned that the minister approved the export contract shortly after a private meeting with the Saudi ambassador. No wonder Saudi Arabia considers this arms deal to be an act of great friendship. But Canadians don't want to be friends with human rights abusers. Is this why the Liberal government is so afraid to support our motion for more transparency? Is this an act of great friendship with Saudi Arabia?
Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Madam Speaker, this government sticks to its word. We said we would accede to the Arms Trade Treaty, and we are. The NDP, on the other hand, does not stick to its word. So let me quote their leader during the last election. You don't cancel a commercial accord retroactively. It's just not done. And yet now we find that the NDP are willing to abandon almost 3,000 well-paying jobs for hard-working Canadians. We are honouring our promise of jobs for the middle class, and we are honouring our promise to make the arms export process more rigorous and transparent. Thank you.
Bravo. The Honourable Member for Edmonton Riverbend.
Madam Speaker, the people of Alberta have worked hard for generations, and the entire nation has benefited from Alberta's economic strength. But now, unemployed Albertans are struggling to provide for their families. My province is the economic engine of the country, Madam Speaker, and we desperately need this Prime Minister to quit putting up hurdles, raising taxes on the innovators and job creators in my province. When is this government going to recognize the significance a struggling Alberta has on the rest of the country?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, we are very, I would like to thank first the member for the question. We recognize the situation that's going on in Alberta and Saskatchewan and Manitoba, Madam Speaker. And I could say that the first thing we did at this government, which is helping people in Alberta and Saskatchewan and Manitoba, was to reduce taxes for Canadian, Madam Speaker. And then we went on with the Canada Child Benefit. But more importantly, Madam Speaker, we also reviewed the employment insurance regions to provide more benefits to people there when they lost their job. This is a government that is listening to people and is acting for the people.
The honourable member for Edmonton Riverbend.
Madam Speaker, I want the Minister to know that this isn't just an economic crisis, but a human tragedy as well. Yeah. Since the beginning of 2015, the unemployment rate has risen from 4.8% to 8.4%, and more than 200,000 Albertans are out of work. Skilled workers across Alberta are struggling. Can the Finance Minister commit to reversing course on his ill-advised plan to raise taxes, spend recklessly, string up red tape before it's too late for Albertans?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
To be clear, we are listening to Western Canadians. We are listening to people in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. We understand the situation. And that's why, Madam Speaker, we reduce taxes for Canadians. That's the first bill we passed in this House, was to reduce tax for Canadians and invest in infrastructure, invest in innovation. Those type of investment in the Canadian economy, in the Canadian middle class, are going to make the people of Western Canada and people across this country more prosperous. That's what we promised to do. That's what we're going to be doing, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Madam Speaker, I would invite the government to take its responsibilities seriously. Many consultations, many press releases, lots that they're working on, but nothing is moving forward. Madam Speaker, an urgent file is softwood lumber. In just a few days, the agreement will end. And the industry needs to know what's going to happen. It's important for the regions. When will this government go beyond words and conclude an agreement in the interests of Canadian families? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to thank my honourable colleague for his question. We are working very hard on this file. Our negotiators are in pretty much constant contact with representatives of the provinces, with workers, with industry across country, and with, obviously, their American counterparts. We are working very hard on this file, but we are looking for a good deal for Canada, for Quebec, and for our workers, but not just any agreement. The honourable member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Madam Speaker, I would like the negotiators to be working at all times. Over 400,000 jobs are at risk in the country if the agreement isn't signed by October 12th. Over 135 municipalities in Quebec depend exclusively on this agreement. We know that Quebec files don't interest the Prime Minister, so it's a good thing that this is an agreement that concerns the entire country. Madam Speaker, when will the government finally take its responsibilities seriously, respect Canadian workers who don't want to lose their jobs in 2 weeks? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Madam Speaker, we are very committed and working hard on this file. The Minister has gone to Saguenay to speak with industry reps and with workers, but listen to what others are saying on our work. The Conseil du Patronat de Québec noted, and I quote, that the attention that we are putting into defending the Quebec industry is excellent. The forestry industry of Quebec is very happy with our position on the Quebec forestry regime. We are listening to Quebec industry. We're listening to workers.
Madam Speaker, the Pacific Northwest LNG project is a $36 billion investment that would create thousands of well-paying jobs and allow Canada to export clean energy to the world. Today, Canadians see the news that the project's proponent is considering selling. In the spring, we warned the Liberals that delaying the rigorous assessment process longer would put the project at risk. While the Liberals held up the approval process, did they know the project's investors were considering getting out?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unlike the party opposite, we understand that the only way resources will get to market in the 21st century is if we can get a balance between the environment and the economy. We did a review. We spent the time necessary we have conditions that are reasonable, and I can quote from many different people who acknowledge that these are conditions that are normal with any project. They are conditions that are responsible, and really it's up to a proponent to decide, and right now the issue is low commodity prices.
The honourable member for Lakeland.
Madam Speaker, time is of the essence for LNG, but the Liberals added barriers to the process at the worst possible time. The Pacific Northwest LNG project is supported by the vast majority of local First Nations, the City of Fort St. John, the BC Chambers of Commerce, and the Government of BC. It's important to all of Canada. Approval is one thing, getting it built is another. Are the Liberals working with the proponents to ensure none of the conditions are permanent roadblocks so the project can get started and Canadians can get back to work?
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We believe in rigorous environmental assessments, and we believe that what we've done is pave the way for the project to go ahead in a sustainable way. Once again, it's up to a proponent to determine if the economic conditions are there to go ahead. I can read from a number of different people, including the CEO of the Business Council of British Columbia. This decision paves the way for Canada to compete in the international LNG market while continuing our climate leadership on a global scale. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Rimouski-Neigette-Témiscouata-Lévesque. When the Liberals took power, they told us that it was the end of one-sided dialogues with the provinces. But if we look at what's happening in the negotiations concerning the health transfer, it's clear that, well, nothing's really changed. According to the health minister from Quebec, the government's approach is a trap, and how the Liberals are trying to sugarcoat things, but they're offering the provinces the same $36 billion health transfer cut as the Conservatives. Can the minister explain the difference between the cuts in health care from the Conservatives and the Liberal cuts? The Honourable Minister of Health. Madam Speaker, what is different is that our government is working very hard with the provinces and territories. We have had very good discussions with our counterparts across the country. Yesterday I spoke with Quebec's health minister and with the health minister from Ontario. We will continue to work hard, and I will remind you that the Canada Health transfers will increase, will go up by over $1 billion next year to reach over $37 billion. Thank you.
Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Minister of Health called her cut to the healthcare escalator reasonable. But Liberals used different adjectives when this cut was first announced by Stephen Harper. The member for Vancouver Centre, who was the Liberal health critic, said it was walking away from Medicare. The member for St. Paul's, now a Liberal cabinet minister, said it would leave Canadians out in the cold. And the member for Ottawa South called the Conservatives' approach unconscionable and indefensible. How does the minister explain this blatant, undeniable reversal to Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, this is a government that is interested in collaborating with all of our partners across the country. I will remind the member opposite to clarify something that he said yesterday. He talked about healthcare spending increasing, but in fact, according to the Canadian Institute for Health Information, across this country, annual healthcare spending has declined by an average of 0.6% since 2011. That is in a context of the Canadian Health Transfer increasing by 6%. We are going to increase it next year. There will be more than $1 billion extra added to the Canada Health Transfer. In addition to that, there will be new investments in areas important to Canadians.
The honourable member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Madam Speaker, last fall the minister disclosed he had a personal relationship with the Irvings. The Ethics Commissioner has banned him from any dealings with the Irvings. Apparently, he doesn't think it applies to cocktails with Irving lawyers and lobbyists. Given that he's in charge of all litigation involving the federal government, could the minister tell us how many ongoing cases the federal government has with Irving or with Cox and Palmer?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, you know very well and that Canadians expect a high standard of ethics from our ministers and our government. So I would invite the members of the opposition to look at a document that was tabled in the House today, which says clearly that the minister's participation in this event is not a problem. The minister asked the Ethics Commissioner whether this invitation was acceptable, and Madam Speaker, the answer was very clear. There is no problem with the minister attending this event.
Honourable member for Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. The Ministers of Fisheries recently stated Law firms are not able to confirm whether any person or client or company is a client, as such matters are confidential. An easy Google search revealed Cox & Palmer represents the Irvings. When did the minister request a ruling from the Ethics Commissioner? And at that time, did he disclose that Cox & Palmer represents the Irvings?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Madam Speaker, once again, I will refer the opposition members to the document that was tabled in the House, Madam Speaker, which indicates very, very clearly that the minister can attend this event, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, this is an annual event organized by a law firm to allowing Atlantic business leaders to meet with Toronto business leaders. The minister does not have any access to the clients of this law firm, and the law firm will not make those public. So once again, Madam Speaker, the minister has the permission of the Ethics Commissioner to attend this event.
Well, Madam Speaker, moments ago, the Liberal House leader tabled only one email of a string of several between the Fisheries Minister and the Ethics Commissioner concerning his attendance at a law firm representing the Irvings. Madam Speaker, when will the Liberals table all emails and all documents between the Minister and the Commissioner? When will they tell this House the truth? And what, Madam Speaker, is the Minister hiding?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Madam Speaker, once again, I would invite the member from the opposition to look at the document that was tabled in the House today, which says very clearly from the Ethics Commissioner that the minister was fully cleared to participate in this event. And do the members from across the way question the work of the Ethics Commissioner, Madam Speaker, who gave authorization to the minister to participate in this event? The minister, Madam Speaker, will always participate in events where he can promote the interests of Atlantic Canada, Madam Speaker, and the interests of all Canadians. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Madam Speaker, the Minister of Fisheries confirmed that he will be the guest of honour at a cocktail organised by a law firm that deals with the Irving family. Yes, the Minister communicated with the Ethics Commissioner, but we've learned from the media that the Minister provided some information, but did he give all the information, and did he say that the law firm represents the Irving family? We will never question the work of the Ethics Commissioner, but we can question what the Minister has said to the Ethics Commissioner. So did the Minister tell the Ethics Commissioner that this was organized by a group that represents the Irvings? Madam Speaker, I will repeat this, and it's important to repeat it. The Ethics Commissioner gave her approval for the Minister to participate in this event.
About it, Madame la Présidente. The interim Conservative leader charged taxpayer nearly $10,000 to stay in Ottawa while she was living in an official residence, also paid for by the public. Recourse from the House of Commons. So if they have a letter or document stating this, Madam Speaker, I would love to see it, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Madam Speaker, the Environment Minister told CBC that she approved Pacific Northwest LNG project because measures will be taken to protect salmon spawning areas. The trouble is, these salmon don't spawn at the mouth of the river. What is actually threatened are juvenile salmon in what DFO has called one of the largest and most diverse wild salmon watersheds in the world. How can Canadians have confidence that the minister's measures will actually protect the environment and our salmon when she doesn't even know where salmon spawn?
The Honourable Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Our government makes decisions based on science and evidence, and we rely on our experts across government who have been working on this file for the past 3 years. I apologize if I misspoke, but the reality is we rely on our experts, public servants, who are scientists, to make decisions, and the 190 responsible conditions were based on that science. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Nanaimo, Lady Smith.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If the Environment Minister was standing up for the environment instead of paving the way for development, we'd all feel better. On Wednesday, the Union of BC Municipalities passed 2 resolutions calling on this government to deal with improved oil spill response in the marine environment. But the Liberals seem to be in favour of tanker increases that will further threaten those coasts. So this is We've got a continued legacy of serious gaps in our oil spill response capacity. Local governments are alarmed. Our local coastal environments and economy are at risk. And I want to know what this government will do.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Honourable Minister of Transport.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank my colleague for her question. And Canada is, of course, very much focused on improving marine safety in our country. In fact, it was part of my mandate letter. I have been working with my colleagues from fisheries, from the environment, and from other portfolios to make sure that we in Canada will not only have proper marine safety measures put in place, but that we will improve our capability to respond to spills on all of our 3 coasts. Thank you.
The honourable member for Mount Royal. Madam Speaker.
Organization, the UN agency responsible for aviation, has its head office in Montreal, a source of pride to all Montrealers. Depuis le 27 septembre.
Since September 27th, the Triennial General Assembly has been underway in Montreal. Can the Minister of Transport elaborate on the discussions that are being held there on greenhouse gas emissions and the role our government is playing in this crucial area? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Thank you, Madam, and I'd like to thank my colleague from Mount Royal for his question. The Government of Canada has been proposing concrete measures to reduce or mitigate greenhouse gases stemming from international aviation. We're proud of our role. In fact, I was there for the opening of the General Assembly of the ICAO. I made a speech and I met my international counterparts. We believe that it's extremely important for all countries, over 100 countries, to reach an agreement to mitigate greenhouse gases, and Canada is playing a major role in that area. Thank you.
A year ago, Ottawa's regional minister slammed on the brakes on plans for a new civic hospital in her own riding because we were told hospital construction would interfere with valuable climate change research. Yet a report posted on the Environment Commissioner's website confirms that all the research happening on the land will be done at least 5 years before shovels even go in the ground for the new hospital. Did the Member of Parliament for the area and the Environment Minister read this information before she decided to block the construction of a hospital in her own riding for at least a year?
The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage.
President, we are committed to a state-of-the-art hospital centrally located in Ottawa, and we understand the need from the community to make a decision quickly. Unlike the past government, this important decision cannot be taken behind closed doors, and we really believe in a transparent and rigorous process, and this is why I asked the NCC to lead a site review process. And I understand that the people in Ottawa are getting involved in this important public consultation process, and I'm confident in the NCC's ability to lead a thorough study in order to provide the government with...
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
Well, Madam Speaker, my question was for Ottawa's regional minister, not Montreal's. The member for Ottawa Centre is the one who triumphantly announced a year ago that she was reversing John Baird's decision to grant farmland to the hospital. When she later learned that there was nowhere else to put it, she went into hiding and punted the matter to the minister for Montreal. Now our city is voiceless on a hospital in our city. When will this minister take responsibility for her community and our city and let us build a new hospital?
Madam Speaker, I'm very happy to be in charge of the National Capital Commission, the NCC, in order to make sure that Ottawa has a centrally located state-of-the-art hospital. And unlike the past government, we really believe that this decision-making shouldn't be taken behind closed doors. So that's why I won't take any recommendations or any lessons coming from my counterpart, and we'll make sure that we invest in an important NCC thorough study, and I look forward getting all the recommendations.
I just want to remind the members that when someone has the floor, that they are to listen, and then they'll have an opportunity to ask questions at a later time. The Honourable Member for Banff Airdrie.
Well, the government claims it's consulting on fundamental changes to our democracy, but then they're not actually listening to what Canadians have to say. So let's listen. Constituents Jeff and Annie wrote, "This is not a decision for only political parties to make." And Charles and Wynota wrote, "It is unconscionable that a government in power would try to rig an election system to stay in power. This is what dictators do." And Dennis says a referendum is essential. So will the Liberals finally agree to let each and every Canadian have a say in a referendum?
I know for Jeff and Annie and Dennis, we appreciate that feedback, but they would also like to have opportunities to be able to speak to their MPs. On this side of the House, we've had more than 150 members of Parliament who either have had or will have consultations in their riding on this issue. The Conservatives have 5. Now, that's a lot better than the 0 they had on the Unfair Elections Act. I'll grant them that. But when are they going to let their constituents have their say on this issue, actually consult their constituents, and participate in the process of improving our democracy?
Very good.
The honourable member for Brandon Souris.
Well, Mr. Speaker, last Saturday I hosted an open house on electoral reform to hear what Canadians have to say. And wait, Madam Speaker, let me tell you the results. After tabulating the responses at my town hall, there was a clear majority who want a referendum, and over 800 people in my riding have now petitioned to have a vote before any change in electing MPs is implemented. So, will the Prime Minister listen to their demands and stop denying them their right to have a vote on a referendum?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
I'm glad the member opposite took the opportunity to have that session. I encourage all members of this House to do it. In fact, most from all the other parties, with the except the official opposition, have taken that opportunity. What I would say is there's an excellent starting point for conversation, and that is the critic for the Conservative Party on democratic reform has said that first past the post is not the best system, and so has the critic for every other party, and so have we. So why don't we focus on proposing the best possible alternative, on working together and having those consultations so that we can move forward in the best way possible to improve our democracy.
Member for Elmwood Transcona.
This week is Right to Know Week, but every day that goes by without a duty to document the discussions and decisions in ministers' offices is an affront to Canadians' right to know. The Liberal government has so far not dealt with the issue of ministerial emails being deleted. The Information Commissioner has recently called for the Auditor General to look into the practice, and we're wondering when the Liberal government is going to make it clear to Canadians what they're deciding to keep and what they're deciding just to delete, Madam Speaker, and when they're going to bring in rules to require proper documentation. After all, Canadians have a right to know, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Official House Leader.
Thank you for the question. I'd like to thank the honourable member for the question and the opportunity to rise in this House to remind all members and to remind Canadians that we campaigned on a commitment to have a more open, more transparent, more relevant government for Canadians, and we will continue to do the good work that we are doing, and I look forward to working with the member opposite with any feedback that he has. Thank you.
The honourable member for St. Hyacinthe Bagot. Madam Speaker, the St. Hyacinthe Courier has been around since 1853. It's the oldest French newspaper in the Americas, and it's a member of the Coalition for the Survival of Print News Media in Quebec. There's a broad consensus among major newspapers in Quebec and Canada that concrete programs are needed to provide support for the transition towards digital. What's the Minister of Innovation's timetable for implementing concrete support for newspapers and print news media? The Honourable Minister of Heritage. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I recognize that currently our various news media are facing major challenges when it comes to digitization. And we are aware of the important role of media, and that's why we've taken leadership in the area of media. We're studying the question, we're conducting public consultations, and I hope that all media in Canada and in Quebec specifically will participate in those consultations on October 28th in Montreal. I would encourage everyone to participate.
Liberal MPs from Hamilton, Kitchener and Vancouver have all come out in support of Jetline's proposal because it will benefit the traveller. The Minister of Transport likes to tell us that he's doing his homework on this file. At the rate he's going, he will have handed in his homework long after the school year is over. He won't even get a grade for his work. Will the minister make a decision and get jetlines in the air?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Of course, I always do my homework, and I do it thoroughly. It's been a principle all my life. Now, I want to say that we are looking very seriously at the recommendations of the Canada Transportation Act review, which brings in the question of foreign ownership, and that is certainly very germane to the requests that have come from both Jetlines and Enerjet. We are looking at this very diligently as part of my homework, and our decisions will be based on what is in the best interest of Canadians. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Kitchener-Conestoga.
Well, Madam Speaker, Waterloo International Airport wants the Liberals to raise the foreign ownership limit of airlines to 49%. This will allow low-cost airlines to start up in Canada and to create thousands of jobs. The minister said a decision was not forthcoming, but in the House last week, his parliamentary secretary said that there would be a decision in the coming months. This uncertainty is unacceptable. We need action now. Why is the minister not listening to Canadians who want low-cost air carriers and more jobs?
L'Honorable Ministre des Transports.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I did not say is not forthcoming. Sometimes the media decide to frame it that way. I am working very diligently, as I've said, for a long time to make sure that we make an informed decision. In fact, I have held roundtables for the past 4.5 months. I have consulted with Canadians. I've even had a Facebook chat live and talked to Canadians about their views with respect to improving the traveller experience. Believe me, I'm working on this. I'm doing my homework. I am consulting Canadians, and we'll make a decision in the best interest of Canadians.
Honourable Member for Souris Moose Mountain.
Madam Speaker, Liberals are spending billions on pet projects, yet no jobs for Saskatchewan. They claim to an increase in so-called infrastructure, yet no jobs for Saskatchewan. Now the Liberals want to force a carbon tax on the provinces. That will kill more jobs for Saskatchewan. Forcing the provinces and the territories to adopt carbon taxes will cost families thousands of dollars. When will this minister stop taxing hard-working Canadians and end their job-killing carbon tax?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the member opposite for the question. We are very pleased that we are going to be moving forward with the Pan-Canadian Climate Plan that was agreed to by the provinces and the territories in the Vancouver Declaration, which also included recognition of the importance of putting a price on carbon. I'm very excited about the debate that is going to take place next week on the Paris Agreement. I'm also very looking forward to meeting with my counterparts, environment ministers, this coming Monday to talk about our Pan-Canadian Plan, including how we're going to price pollution.
The Honourable Member for Fleetwood-Port Kells.
Madam Speaker, Canadians only need to turn on the news to see the devastating effect that the misuse of fentanyl is having in our communities. My home province of British Columbia has already declared a public health emergency after a dramatic increase in the number of overdose deaths from illicit drugs such as fentanyl, and 800 are projected to die due to overdose in BC by the end of the year. But this is an issue affecting all provinces and territories, and we need to act. Will the Minister of Health inform this House what our government is doing to combat the opioid crisis?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Madam Speaker, the member from Fleetwood-Port Kells has raised a very serious matter. We are deeply concerned about the growing number of overdoses and deaths caused by fentanyl and other opioids. That is why we have delivered a 5-point action plan to address the opioid crisis in this country. It includes work done in collaboration with our partners, including Senator Vern White. We were able to take a step in August to restrict chemicals used in the illicit production of fentanyl. We have much more work to do in collaboration with health professionals, addiction experts, provinces and territories, and all members of all parties to implement the
Member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
Madam Speaker, this summer, the government abruptly and without consultation added significant new study permit requirements for those wishing to complete language courses in Canada before entering a degree program. This added red tape is dulling Canada's competitive edge in attracting international students, and decreased fall enrollment in language institutes already is reflecting this. Can the minister tell the numerous educational groups and institutes that have urgently contacted many of us across party lines, I'm sure my colleagues in the government have even had these calls, when he is going to talk to them about their concerns, when he's going to address their concerns more importantly?
Honourable Minister of Citizenship.
Well, I can say, Madam Speaker, that we are addressing this issue of these Conservative imposed rules, which are causing some trouble, and I'm hoping to have a response in September. But I can also say on the international students, we want to court international students. We have reversed their provision to take away the 50% credit for citizenship, and we are adding points for international students on express entry. So, Madam Speaker, we Liberals are working for international students and reversing what these people did.
The honourable member for Châteauguay-Lacolle. Madam Speaker, this summer, Canadians all across the country were glued to their TVs watching our athletes shine at the Rio Olympics. My question is to the Parliamentary Secretary for Sport and Persons with Disabilities.
The Rio Games are sadly over. Can the Parliamentary Secretary advise this House just how well Canada's Olympic and Paralympic teams performed?
L'honorable secrétaire parlementaire.
Madame la Présidente, j'aimerais remercier.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague from Châteauguay-Lacolle for her excellent question. I had the opportunity to watch the Olympics and the Paralympics in Rio. Our athletes made us proud, to say the least. The Paralympic team came 14th and the Olympic team came 10th. Both exceeded expectations.
All Canadians, I thank our athletes for their hard work, perseverance, and courage. This past summer, you gave us memories of a lifetime.
Excellent.
The honourable for Fort McMurray-Cold Lake.
Madam Speaker, on June 21st, there was a screening of the documentary The Angry Inuk, held here on Parliament Hill. Produced by a prominent Inuit filmmaker, this documentary covers the struggles of the Inuit seal hunter, who have seen the cost of their seal products crash due to the EU product ban. And pelts now go for half of what they once did. When will this government take action to combat the EU seal ban, which is devastating Inuit hunters?
L'honorable secrétaire parlementaire.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm happy to speak to this particular issue. Being an Inuk myself and living in the north, we know how critical the sealing industry is to our communities and to our people. We continue to work hard as a government, and we continue to